the conference what will happen, but I think it's a great outcome. I'm looking forward to the next couple of years. I did want to very quickly say a thank you to all of my colleagues here in Knoxville for the extraordinary efforts they put out to make this conference a success. I think you will agree with me now that you've spent some time here that we have an incredibly rich and diverse and an extraordinarily generous cultural community in Knoxville. They worked really hard to provide a meaningful experience for their colleagues from around the region. We're grateful for this opportunity to share these vibrant cultural organizations with the world. And I think we've all discovered new strengths as a community. A lot of us have met each other for the first time, believe it or not, through the process of working on this. I would also encourage all of you to think about hosting this annual meeting in your own community. I think you'll find that it's a growing and learning experience. We're grateful to SEMC for choosing Knoxville, and we're looking forward to a great meeting next year in Jacksonville. My final advice would be, as soon as we're finished this afternoon, head off to the south to the Smokies. It's spectacular this time of year, and you don't want to miss it. So thanks for being here, and thanks for everyone who made these few days so special. Thanks.
Thank you so much, David, you and all of your team, and everybody here in Knoxville that just made us feel so welcome. And now we're going to move on to our keynote address. Michael Edson is a strategist and thought leader at the forefront of digital transformation in the cultural sector. He's worked on numerous award-winning projects and has been involved in practically every aspect of technology and new media in museums, including the development of the Smithsonian's web and new media strategy, the Smithsonian's first blog, iLevel, and the first alternative reality game to take place in a museum, Ghosts of a Chance. Michael was named a Presidential Distinguished Fellow by the Council on Libraries and Information Resources USA, and he serves on the Open Knowledge Foundation's Open GLAM Advisory Board. Michael was a member of the National Endowment for the Arts Works Task Force, which mapped the relationship between the arts and the quality of life in American communities. He's an O'Reilly Food Camp alumni, and he was named a Tech Titan Person to Watch by Washingtonian Magazine. Michael Edson.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, everyone. That was the most awesome business meeting I've ever been to. Seriously, that was well done. Take it back. I'm going to call an audible this morning. Everybody stand up. Yeah. Okay. Does everyone here know the game rock, paper, scissors? Okay, so if you don't, and this varies from country to country, it'd be a great PhD for someone. You go 1, 2, 3, shoot. Not 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3, shoot, not 1, 2, 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Find a partner. We're going to do an epic rock, paper, scissors contest. So find someone next to you. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. If you lose, sit down. If you win, find someone else. If you've tied, do it again. All right? If you're still standing, find another partner. This is going very well. Thanks for coming, everyone. It's been great. We've got a winner over here. Anyone stand? We still got someone standing over here? No? Yes? Over there? Oh, scissors beats paper. We have one standing. One there. Meet each other. Please. Look at this. Scissors, scissors. Paper, paper. Oh, the tension is unbelievable. Keep going. I really can't take this anymore. Oh, scissors, scissors. Keep going. Oh, rock beats. Okay, here we go, you two. Drum roll, please. Yeah, thank you. Go. Rock beats, scissors. Well done. So, that may have been awesome, but I want you to meet your new boss. Audio. If you're not intimidated by that, you're not paying attention. So what's happening here? This is a robotics project out of a university in Japan. What's happening here is they've made a sensor that's looking at your hand. And by the time you start to make the motion with your hand, by the time you even realize what you've cast, the sensor has analyzed the pattern of your fingers. Back to business. The sensor, the computer has recognized what you're going to cast. Thank you. It's recognized what you're going to cast, and it takes about a millisecond to do that. That time is dropping. And then it takes about another millisecond for the robot to actually make its pitch. And it beats you every single time, because what that technology is capable of doing trumps what our technology is capable of doing. Get used to that feeling. Because that's going to be the story of our next 30, 40, 50 years, and that's basically the theme of this talk in a lot of ways. I'm going to call another audible. You people back there, you look like a cheering section for the local football team or something. You're going to be miserable, because this is like a really verbal, visual talk, and you're not going to be able to see a freaking thing. I command you, pick up your chairs, and like anyone over here, this is going to suck. You might as well be watching YouTube videos. Join us, okay? I'll filibuster for a minute while you're doing that. Seriously, I came a long way. I'm going to be very sad if you don't get to see the talk. Yeah, make some friends. Well done. See, I wouldn't have had the courage to do this if your business meeting wasn't so upbeat. I would have been all scared and, yeah. You're a friendly bunch. Okay. Here we go, in all seriousness. And also, can we, if there's any way to dim the lights, that would be great too. I'll try and read also, please feel free to come around. The dark matter of the internet is open, social, peer-to-peer, and read-write, and ... It's the future of museums. Oh, that's lovely, thank you. Mick Jones, at the Rock and Roll Public Library.
So that was not part of the show, actually. That was just a little bit funny enough. This is the show now. stand by your mind. Tell me something else I understand. You said you love me, that's fine. And then you let me said you felt trapped. Some things you can't explain away. But the whole experience till this day, you stand by me. Oh, not at all. So stand by me. No way. All the times we were close, I remember these things the most. I seen all my dreams come tumbling down. I can't be happy without you around. So alone I keep the wounds at bay. And there's only one thing I can say. You stand by me. No, not at all. You stand by me. No way. You must explain why this must be. Did you lie when you spoke to me?
This system can transform items around us into computers. Now, when you're sitting in front of a large device,
One second. We have some AV strangeness happening.
input on a smartphone and rapid paper movements present no problem.
Better. Do you want to hit play on that? Or slide? Advances? Sorry about that. That looks good. Okay, sorry about that. So until the 1960s, we human beings thought we had a pretty good idea of what the universe was made of. You, me, the Earth, the planets, the Milky Way, Renoir's boating party, the pearly plastic of Elvis's guitar pick, the Great Pyramid of Giza, a finch's beak, the sound of Marie Calais' voice, and everything else in the cosmos was believed to be made of particles and energy that we could see, touch, smell, hear, or directly measure with the instruments of science. But we were wrong. Not just a little wrong, we were wrong at a stupendous, almost unimaginable scale. And the way in which we were wrong tells us a lot about the way our memory institutions are using technology to accomplish their missions, and the beauty and power that exists now, just beyond our reach. In 1967, American astronomer Vera Rubin was fresh out of graduate school. Interestingly, she asked for a prospectus to the Columbia University Astronomy Department and was told in a terse letter from the departmental director that they didn't admit women. They wouldn't even send her a prospectus. Vera Rubin was fresh out of graduate school, eager to begin her new career. She started working on a comprehensive survey of the rotational characteristics of spiral galaxies. It was supposed to be a long, grueling project by design. She said herself, a program no one would care about. Thousands of days and nights, working in anonymity, gathering data to calculate the speed at which spiral galaxies spin around their dense central cores. But on Vera Rubin's first night of observations, she noticed something startling. Spiral galaxies are beautiful structures with flat, disc-like bodies that sometimes span, and I need to read this so I don't get it wrong, millions of billions of kilometers. Millions of billions of kilometers. And they contain hundreds of billions or sometimes trillions of stars. But as marvelous as they are, they're supposed to obey the laws of gravity and physics just like every other piece of matter in the universe. It was an article of faith that spiral galaxies would revolve around their axes, like the planets in the solar system revolve around their suns, with the planets closer, the stars closer to the center of the galaxy, spinning faster than those that were far away. But that's not what Vera Rubin found. She discovered on that night, and on every measurement she or any other astronomer has taken since, that the outer regions of every spiral galaxy spin just as fast as the inner regions, regardless of whether the stars are close to the center or 100 million light years away. How could this be? In one galaxy, Triangulum, it was as if there was a missing mass in that galaxy, equivalent to 39 billion suns. 39 billion invisible suns were somehow pulling the outer reaches of this galaxy forward. How could this happen? Where was the missing mass? Where was the energy and gravity coming from? How do you explain to your graduate supervisor, your boss on the first night of your first job, 39 billion missing suns? The universe doesn't show its cards very often. It doesn't flaunt a physical reality that so clearly contradicts what we expect to see. But there it was. There was the evidence in the hands of a junior astronomer on her first measurement of her first night of her first job. And there were only two reasonable explanations. Either there was something wrong with the laws of gravity. Imagine that, telling that to your boss. How are your observations last night? Yeah, I think there's something wrong with Newton's law. Or there was an enormous quantity of energy in the universe that we just couldn't see. Well, Vera Rubin discovered dark matter, or she confirmed the existence of dark matter. Her measurements have been repeated on thousands of galaxies now, and the results are always the same. Dark matter, whatever it is, seems to comprise most of the mass of the universe. She wrote, "We became astronomers thinking we were studying the universe as we see it. And now we learn that we are just studying the 5 or 10% that is luminous." Wow. We all work in amazing institutions. Some of them are giants with epic missions, and some of them are small with just a handful of staff, a small number of constituents, but they're deeply meaningful still to the people they serve. I'm talking about our museums, libraries, archives, cultural institutions, heritage institutions, educational institutions, and there really is nothing like them on the face of the earth. And whether we've realized it or not, for the last 10 or 20 years, we've all been working on this extraordinary project, online, building a planetary scale knowledge sharing network for the benefit of everyone on Earth. We've reached and to varying degrees satisfied hundreds of millions of people with our efforts, and for more than 20 years we've done it all on shoestring budgets, when we were lucky to have budgets at all, in direct competition with some of the biggest and most aggressive media companies in the world, through 3 global recessions, a global banking crisis, wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and terror, among 61 other global conflicts. And at the end of the day, we've almost always generated a positive impact on the visitation, reputation, and financial sustainabilities of our hallowed institutions. And that's not a bad stretch of work for a bunch of people who've mostly been making it up as we've been going along. But as I look out at these accomplishments, and I think of where we are today, I think of how our institutions think about the World Wide Web 25 years after its birth, and the degree to which we understand and are taking advantage of its full capacity to serve, educate, enlighten, empower our constituents, whoever they are, wherever they are. When I think about this, my thoughts return to the story of Vera Rubin and dark matter. Despite some of the best efforts of our most visionary and talented colleagues, we've been building, investing, and focusing on only a small part of what the internet can do to help us accomplish our missions. If 90% of the universe is made of dark matter, hard to see, but so powerful that it moves entire galaxies, perhaps 90% of our institutions are made of dark matter. Hard to see and touch, but nonetheless powerful enough to deeply change people's lives. Actually, would you please click on that video? Click to play. Thank you.
John. I guess you've heard by now. Auto power off. Still some glitches to work out. Hello, John. By now you have received my message that we will no longer be communicating through any textual means. No more instant messaging, no more emailing. Only video logging. And possibly phone calls. You can see my eye in my eye. Okay, just try to ignore that. There, you can't see it now, can you? Last night I sent you an email from a New Year's Eve party in Lake Tahoe. The email outlined our plans. Starting on January 1st, today, I will send you a video blog. Tomorrow, you will reply to that video blog. We will continue like this until the year is up. I'm not going to be good at this.
Good morning, Hank. It's January 2nd, 2007. I just spent 2 hours and 13 minutes downloading your 2-minute and 1-second video. That I'm in Mom and Dad's house, the last residents in the United States of America with dial-up internet.
There's always some debaucherous party going on, and no one is ever having any fun. Like, everybody in that room just wants more money and more class, and they want to like find a way to get a better life, except for Tom Buchanan, who has what they all want, except that Tom Buchanan is like an unbearable ass face. Where did it come from? Why do we have a polar vortex all of a sudden? Okay, well, polar vortices are cyclones there that exist around the poles, both poles, and they're caused by the temperature being different at the equator than it is at the pole. Yeah, but today I want to talk about 3 much more dramatic and important examples of how our terrible political discourse is leading to awful policy making. But first I'm going to go right over to the park.
This is the United States of intellectual property in the United States in 4 minutes.
Yeah. So, 2007, brothers Hank and John Green, you may know John, he's now a best-selling New York Times novelist. Brothers Hank and John Green decided that they would spend a year not exchanging text messages with each other, not emailing each other at all, not using SMS, not using AOL Instant Messenger, if you remember that. They would communicate only through video blogs. And where do you put video blogs? You put them on YouTube, of course, which was a weird thing to do in 2007. So they started this project, a year of textless communication. They called it Brotherhood 2.0, and they started doing this. And you'll notice that these are not high-tech productions. Hank and John Green are not movie stars. It's evident from watching 30 seconds of any of their videos that they are nerds. And they proudly describe themselves as such. And if you announce to your museum director or boss that you intended to hire Hank or John Green to make some charming videos for you about, oh, this one's about the Great Gatsby, Attacked by Squirrels and Neoclassicism is a good one. Global warming and the polar vortex. Idiotic governance, how our political discourse hurts our economy. And this is a good one, the bizarre state of copyright. If you went in and announced to your boss that you were going to hire these guys to work for your museum, you would probably be out of a job. You would be asked to have your head examined. And yet, over the course of the years, over the course of the 1,000+ Brotherhood 2.0 videos recorded to date, Hank and John Green, or the Vlog Brothers, as they call themselves now, and their YouTube channel demonstrate an exquisite mastery of the dark matter of the internet. They didn't start by making websites. They didn't start by developing a mobile app. They didn't have a marketing budget, a content review committee, or a brand strategy. I'm getting queasy just thinking about those things. They sat down in front of their cameras and they started talking about the things that interested them. And in the process, they got to know their audience. They got to know themselves. Their work is social, graceful, spontaneous, humble, funny, creative, approachable, and very, very generous. And from the point of view of institutions used to thinking about formality and authority and trust in the old way we used to think about that, it all looks like a great big joke. Like, who could take this seriously? But look at what happens over the course of the years as Hank and John Green move their experiment forward. They create the Vlog Brothers YouTube channel on January 1st, 2007. People are interested. They start interacting with their followers. They, this is, I thought, really notable for remembering what 2007 was like on the internet. I put up our MySpace page, and we already have 69 friends. Hank Green, he polled the users, the public, the people early on to ask what they wanted out of the project. And they said, I'm absolutely amazed by the response to my survey. It has over 63 comments. You know, this is 2007. It's kind of a different world. They start referring to their followers as nerd fighters, nerds who fight to reduce world suck. Bad things in the world. And I have to say, I mean, meeting some of you and looking at your business meeting, you're in the same business, right? We're all fighting to reduce world suck. They begin noticing that their nerd fighter friends are interested in social causes. They encourage nerd fighters to donate money to certain charities. The first one is just asking for donations to support the family of one of their friends who died of cancer. One of the nerd fighters who died of cancer. They had such an outpouring of support for that effort that they incorporated the Montana 501c3 nonprofit, the Foundation to Reduce World Suck. That's literally what it's called. They started the Project for Awesome, which is now an annual YouTube kind of film festival. They ask Nerdfighteria, as they call it. They ask people on the internet to record short YouTube videos. And now almost anybody can do this with a smartphone, with a laptop. They all come with cameras and video recorders. They asked people to record short pitches for their own favorite personal charities and upload them to YouTube with a certain hashtag. Then they curated the best results, asked for donations. Last year, the Project for Awesome raised $869,146, which they distributed to 50 charities. Not bad. Yeah. They began talking about Kiva after a family trip to the Dominican Republic, I think. Kiva is the nonprofit that gives small loans to entrepreneurs in the developing world. The nerd fighters respond with great enthusiasm. They formed their own group in Kiva to give money, to loan money to entrepreneurs. Right now, I think the Kiva Nerd Fighters group is the third most active group in the network. To date, they've got 46,000 members. Not bad. They've given $4.5 million of loans to, that's 154,000 loans. $4.5 million total. And the loans are for pretty incredible little projects. I like this one, bulk purchasing of sterling silver to a jeweler. One was for to buy chickens, feed, and medicine for the chickens. These are very small, high impact projects. Hank Green noticed that there was no physical gathering like this wonderful gathering for people who like making online video. So he started what he do. Do you complain about it? No, you start your own conference. He started VidCon. In 2010, VidCon sold out its 1,400 seat venue 2 months in advance. Last year, VidCon had 18,000 attendees. They sold out 2 months in advance. Hank and John Green decided they wanted to do a little concert. They rented Carnegie Hall and sold that out. An Evening of Awesome, it's called. And of course, the whole thing's available online for free. With a grant from Google, they create Crash Course, which is a YouTube channel for short educational high school level, like for smart high school kids, science and humanities videos. The topics include Ophelia, Gertrude, and regicide. And That's Why Carbon is a Tramp, Crash Course Biology #1. And the portfolio of projects, they're just breathtaking. So what do you do when the money runs out? You create your own crowdfunding platform. When Google grant money ran out, they created Subbable, which is a crowdfunding platform that allows people to support ongoing creative projects, unlike Kickstarter, which is one-offs. Subbable is for ongoing serial creative projects. People are allowed to donate with small, very small monthly donations, including donations of $0. So you can be part of this club for $0. Why? Because John Green said, because people who are struggling financially have enough trouble in their lives without feeling that they can't fully be part of something that matters to them, simply because they don't have money. They create DFTBA records, do not forget to be awesome records, to sell, really to remarket a lot of the fan merchandise that was bubbling up all over the internet. One particular creator, I'll show the next slide, someone made this t-shirt design for John Green's favorite food, pizza. That's a portrait of, sorry, here we go. That's a portrait, an impression of John Green loving his pizza. The royalties from that fan-created imagery allowed that artist to graduate from college with no student debt. John Green and his wife, Sarah Green, who is a curator now at the Indianapolis Museum of Art, and through the Brotherhood 2.0 videos, you can see her in graduate school, you can see her writing her dissertation, you can see her getting her first job, you can see them moving to Indianapolis. It's pretty remarkable. They create the art assignment with PBS Digital Labs. The art assignment is a project where they go into individual artist studios, they talk about a theme that's of relevance to modern contemporary art, and then they invite all of you to do a project, do an artwork that's relevant to that exploration. And some of the themes they talk about are pretty epic. Art is a free spot in society where you can do anything. I kind of think that the internet is that same spot too. One of the assignments, they went into an artist studio and the artist asserted that in the modern world, no portrait, no static two-dimensional portrait can really represent all the facets of an individual soul. So John Green and his wife challenged their visitors, their public, to make their own portraits using animated GIFs. Which is a wonderful expression of the art form. Last time I checked, the art assignment had 89,000 subscribers and 1.3 million video views. Last time I checked, the Vlogbrothers channel, the Vlogbrothers Brotherhood 2.0 stream on YouTube had 2.3 million subscribers and 483 million combined views. Together, the Nerd Fighters Brotherhood 2.0 Vlogbrothers network. So these two guys have a network with 27 channels. Like, that's not normal. You know, I grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons and there were 3 networks on. We don't have channels, we don't have networks. People don't do that, but they do. They have 27 channels with 6,300 videos, 964,000 video views. That's almost 1 billion video views, and 8.4 million subscribers total. The Oprah Winfrey channel on YouTube, they're 8 times bigger than the Oprah Winfrey channel, and Oprah Winfrey's a billionaire. You know, John Green is now a New York Times bestselling author, but Oprah Winfrey's Oprah Winfrey. They have 106 times more views and 759 times more subscribers than the Louvre. And the Louvre is the most visited museum on Earth. I mean, how many of you, if you could now reach people online, would you rather be the Louvre or the Vlogbrothers? So to summarize, in 7 years, 2 lovable nerds used YouTube and their own moxie, their own creativity, to build what amounts to a vast educational content community that any museum or cultural institution on planet Earth would be proud to have as their own. They've got millions of avid followers, fans, visitors, public. They've helped give millions of dollars to charity. They've elevated and sustained a discourse about culture, science, thought, suffering, existence. And they're having a blast. And they're making a lot of people happy. And these 2 nerds did this in 7 years. You know, I've been on website redesign projects that lasted 7 years. I've been on committees that took 7 years to write their report. So, you've probably never heard, sorry about that big bubble there, you've probably never heard of the Vlogbrothers. You've probably never heard of Brotherhood 2.0. Hank and John Green are working in, and they're part of, a kind of internet production that's difficult for our institutions to think of as being sufficiently legitimate. respectable, educational, scholarly, or erudite, but it seems that the public doesn't really care. It's likely that the public doesn't think of what we do as being sufficiently accessible, smart, joyous, attentive, generous, welcoming, imaginative, bold, educational, or meaningful to give it much of their attention. In the 1990s, researchers from the Urban Institute conducted a study of arts and culture participation in underprivileged communities in Oakland, California. When they surveyed local residents to find out where they got their culture, they were met with blank stares and a kind of a reply, well, we don't have that around here, sorry. And the researchers thought for a while, they thought for a couple months, and they went back into the communities and they asked the question a different way. They said, who are the creative people in your community? And they got an outpouring of response. They were told about artists, musicians, writers, dancers, and other creative people who live in our midst. The problem wasn't a lack of culture in the community. It was that people weren't associating their creative lives, their inner lives, with the galleries, museums, concert halls, and other formal arts institutions that were created and operated for their benefit. In a similar vein, the organization UX, User Experience, UX for Good, held a design challenge workshop in Washington, D.C. last February to help generate new approaches to accomplishing the mission of the National Endowment for the Arts. So 7 teams of information architects, concept designers got together. They were given the brief of the NEA. So they were told, we need you to design a new project that will improve the lives of Americans and communities through participation in the arts. You can have $130 million a year. You can have a staff of 160. You can have a network of experts all around the world. Go, tell us how to do that. And the user experience designers and information architects and creative designers went away. They came back after their charrette, and not a single group proposed to use any aspect of the United States cultural infrastructure that the NEA had spent the last 50 years building. Not a single library, museum, art center, craft center, public space was used as a tool with which we could accomplish improving Americans' lives and the lives of American communities through participation in the arts. Not one. And Joan Shigekawa, the acting director of the NEA, was at that workshop. She said she was humbled and highly stimulated by that result. And actually, one of the key findings of the team at UX for Good was that the participants thought that $130 million budget was, and I quote them directly, cute. The user experience designers would use that $130 million to create a machine that could generate the $1 billion a year if you'd want to actually begin talking about accomplishing that mission seriously. And it may not be different online. The UK's 40 biggest cultural venues attract less than 0.4% of UK web traffic, according to Culture 24 director Jane Finnis, in a piece she published in The Guardian last year titled, "Why Your Cultural Website is Rubbish." Internet Archive founder Brewster Kahle said of America's academic and research libraries, quote, "The people who are supposed to be doing universal access to knowledge and are getting $12 billion a year to do it are not getting the job done." Part of what may be going on here is an extension of a phenomenon called the clothesline paradox. The clothesline paradox says that we tend to value in our economy, our laws, our society, things that you can measure in the economy over things that are equally impactful, if not more impactful, but are difficult to measure. The analogy that's used is it's like if you dry your clothes in a laundromat or in a dryer at home, you can measure that in the economy. You bought a dryer, you buy electricity, the people who make the dryer work in a factory, they have jobs and benefits. But if you instead choose to take your clothes and hang them on the clothesline, that value disappears from the economy. It's gone. Tim O'Reilly, in a brief article he wrote last year, said, "It's quite clear to me that there is a new economy of content that's quite possibly larger than the old one, but just not as well measured." And I love this part. He says, "Because we tend We measure value captured by companies, by businesses, by government, not value created for users. Think about that and think about what Hank and John Green have done. Eric Bjørnfossen at MIT says that the value of free internet goods in 2011 was about $300 billion that year, and it's increasing at a rate of about $40 billion a year. And the question for our industry, our shared project, to share knowledge with everyone on Earth, to encourage participation in and creation of culture, scientific knowledge, learning. The big challenge is not do we have great experiments, do we have great one-offs, individual examples of how we can begin to do this as an industry. It's how to take these little successes and projects and scale them up to reach millions and billions of people, and scale them out so that more entities, more organizations, more museums in our industry are taking advantage of them. The leader of an award-winning project at a major metropolitan library told me last year, after they had won a very prestigious prize for one of their projects, he said, yeah, that was great. It took us 3 years to do it. We should be doing 10 of those every year. And the question isn't, with this, when you're thinking about this gigantic scale, you're thinking about what we can do with our small organizations. It's not a glass half empty, half full question. The real challenge is that the glass now is so much bigger than we're used to thinking about. The glass is freaking huge, and it's getting bigger every single day. In 2010, Clay Shirky wrote a very influential book called Cognitive Surplus. The central assertion of cognitive surplus is that among the educated, internet-connected citizens of planet Earth, there are 1 trillion free hours of time every year that can be used for a higher purpose. 1 trillion free hours. But Clay Shirky wrote Cognitive Surplus in 2010. 1 billion more people are online now in 2014 than when Clay Shirky published that book. 1 billion more people. Here's a real-time clock of the growth of internet users. Just ponder this for a second. 2.992, actually, after the session, I'm going to check this URL. I was hoping it would hit 3 billion today. I did this little screen capture a couple of days ago. It's probably close to 3 billion. That's 40, 50, 45% of humanity is now online. And in Eric Schmidt, Eric's the CEO of, or the chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt and Jared Cohen's book, The New Digital Age, they assert quite forcefully and quite convincingly that in the next decade, another 5 billion people are going to come online. Another 5 billion people. They said they went to 39 countries to research this book. Is everywhere they went, even in the hills of Myanmar, where they talked to farmers who had never seen or touched the internet, they knew what the internet was. And they knew it stood for the democratic values of access and participation. That's shocking. And then let's talk for a second about mobile technology, mobile phones. Wonderful essay by Keith Devlin from Stanford in the book, This Will Change Everything. He says, within my lifetime, I fully expect almost every living human adult and most children in the world to own a mobile phone. That puts global connectivity, immense computational power, and access to all the world's knowledge amassed over many centuries in everyone's hands. And I have to say, I started reading quotes like this about 10 years ago, and I thought it was hyperbole. I don't think that anymore. This is demonstrably, bankably true. The world has never, ever been in that situation before. Here's a real-time clicker of the number of smartphones sold today. And I don't know, this may have been halfway through the day. I don't know, I did this in my hotel room a couple of nights ago. 1.8 million smartphones sold today. And this is the critical issue that institutions will be contending with for decades to come. There is just an enormous, humongous, gigantic audience out there connected to the internet that is starving for authenticity, ideas, and meaning. And we're so accustomed to the scale of attention that we get from physical institutions, bricks and mortar institutions, that it's difficult to understand and appreciate really how big the internet is and how much attention, creativity, curiosity a couple of billion people can have. Blog posts written today, tweets sent today, Tumblr posts today, 63 million Tumblr posts today. I think maybe a couple of you have done half of those. So, how big? How big is the attention? How big is the thirst and the cognitive creative capacity of a couple billion people? Well, let's look at good old Facebook. In 2011, Facebook had 140 billion images. You're going to hear, okay, so just hang on with me. I'm going to say the word billion. What was the old joke about Carl Sagan? Billions and billions. I'm going to say the word billion about 1,000 times. If it were later at night, we could do a drinking game with that. But just get used to thinking about billions, billions, not thousands. Oh, I've got 5 more Facebook followers today. Well, that may be great depending on what you're doing. Think about billions with me for a second. So 2011, 140 billion images on Facebook. That was then 10,000 times larger than the online image collection of the Library of Congress. And I don't know if you can see, so there's a little pixel. You probably can't even see it. Actually, on the big picture, it's even more stunning. A little pixel that is the size of the Library of Congress. The bigger square is Instagram, which is still just like 5 pixels. And then everything else is Facebook. Web writer, thinker extraordinaire David Weinberger said the old unit of measure in librarianship was an LCU, a Library of Congress unit. Like nobody could ever accession as many books and magazines a day as the LCU. He says now the LCU is so insufficient to describe the creative capacity of the internet that it's not even useful. It's horse and buggy stuff. In 2012, Facebook reached 1 billion users. If it had been a country, it would be the 3rd largest nation on earth. In 2013, Facebook reached 250 billion user photos. You know, 250 billion user photos. That's 4,000 photo uploads per second. 2013, 1.2 billion photos uploaded every day to the top 4 social media sites. And I love this little side note, an essay in the most recent Aperture magazine, actually April 2014 Aperture magazine, by kind of media theorist Lev Manovich. He referred to this collection of photographs as the photo universe created by hundreds of millions of people might be considered a mega documentary without a script or director. Okay? It's dark matter. Reddit. Reddit is a website where people go to have conversations about everything that people really talk about. Their motto is, we power awesome communities. Not, we are awesome, come to us, but we power your stuff. We help you be awesome. Reddit enables the individual and gives literally anyone who has something interesting enough to say the ability to reach millions. Again, that's not hyperbole. It is demonstrably, provably true. Last month, Reddit had 174 million unique visitors, and they served an astonishing 6.1 billion web pages. And it's all kinds of stuff. Reddit has a thing they do called Ask Me Anything, where users can ask for a VIP to appear and answer questions. It's just like chat, it's text back and forth. The top 3 Reddit Ask Me Anythings are Barack Obama, Sir David Attenborough, and Bill Gates, followed closely by, I am the man with 2 penises. Ask me anything. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, the notable astronomer. Ask me anything. I spent 18 years in prison for a murder I didn't commit. Ask me anything. I think about Studs Terkel a lot when I look at Reddit. Studs Terkel wrote it was a wonderful radio journalist based in Chicago, wrote a wonderful book in the 70s called Working, where he just talked to all kinds of people. Prostitutes, politicians, police officers, tailors. That's humanity, that's your public there. I'm gonna skip that one. Pinterest, Tumblr, Tumblr, 271 million blogs, 93 billion blog posts. One of the best online libraries in the world was library.nu. Library.nu contained between 400,000 and 1 million free books. You've never heard of it though. Library.nu was shut down a few years ago in a copyright lawsuit filed in Germany. And the sad thing about that, according to Al Jazeera, this Al Jazeera Appreciation, a beautiful piece of writing, is that the author writes, the world, it should not come as a surprise, is filled with people who desperately want to learn. This is what our world should be filled with. This is our jobs, to fill the world with more people like this. This is what scholars work hard to create, a world of reading, learning, thinking, and scholarship. The users of library.nu were would-be scholars, those in the outer atmosphere of learning who wanted to know, argue, dispute, experiment, and write, just as those in the universities do. The global demand for learning and scholarship is not being met by the contemporary publishing industry. It's very damning and very moving. Kickstarter. We all know and love Kickstarter. It's there, fun stuff happens, but how big is it? How epically big is it? 3 million people last year from 214 countries, territories, and all 7 continents. Yes, they had someone back a project from Antarctica. Pledged $480 million for 19,000 successful projects. That scale of artistic, cultural, literary, filmmaking, project creation, that even governments don't aspire to that scale of creation. But it just happens on this platform every day. They last year created an emoji translation of Moby Dick, which is really awesome. It's a really awesome project. All of these are wonderful. A photo exhibit opened on the Berlin Wall, an Oscar-winning movie. Backers brought rappers to North Korea. Backers put a satellite, are going to put a satellite in space. Who gets to participate in space exploration? Governments, right? The Apollo missions employed 400,000 people, and now a bunch of people in their pajamas are making it happen on a website. It's truly humbling. One of my favorite all-time Kickstarter projects is the Mini Museum by Hans Beck. Mini Museum is a little lucite block, and embedded in it are a piece of the oldest rocks on Earth, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, a chip off the Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. It's this very passionate project. Hans wanted about $30,000 to scale up production. Last time I checked, he had $1.2 million in orders. He's a very, very busy guy. The Kickstarter page in which he communicates with the world about what he wants to do is like a template for being passionate and direct with each other, with your audiences. And last year, on March 3rd, Kickstarter passed its $1 billion mark in pledges. $1 billion in pledges from 5.7 million people to support creativity. That's our business, right? That's what we do. So how does all this work? What is the wheel that sets this in motion? One of the best places to start thinking about this, how do I begin to make this happen, is spend some time on the web looking for it. It's dark matter. Once you know to look for its effect, you'll see it everywhere. But watch this video by TED founder Chris Anderson called How Web Video Powers Global Innovation. It's a beautiful design pattern. He says, at TED, we've become a little obsessed. At TED, we've become a little obsessed with this idea of openness. We opened our talks to the world, and suddenly there are millions of people out there helping spread our speakers' ideas. Not helping make TED great, helping spread the ideas of the people who participate. Thereby making it easier for us to recruit and motivate the next generation of speakers. There's a funny business expression. It's like a self-scooping ice cream cone. By opening up our translation program, thousands of heroic volunteers have translated our talks into more than 70 languages, thereby tripling our viewership in non-English speaking countries. You can find online a graph of the balance of who is on the internet now, and it's not a Western educated, city-based, developed world thing anymore. Everyone is online. By giving away our TEDx brand, we suddenly have 1,000+ live experiments in the art of spreading ideas. So TED took its most valuable property, its brand name, and let anyone who had attended a TED conference take that brand and make it their own. Imagine I was in London yesterday, the British Library says to anyone in the world, if you have a library, you can have Library X. You can have British Library X in your own home and enjoy all the benefits of having this global, stable reputation. What an audacious and stupid thing to do. But it works. It's brilliant. And the organizers of these TEDx conferences, they're seeing each other. They're learning from each other. We're learning from them. We're getting great talks back from them. The wheel is turning. And it's not an accident that last year, TED reached its 1,000,000th video view. So you can say all you want about John and Hank Green waving their arms around and cat videos and fail videos and all the crazy, but very human stuff that happens on the web. But I don't know a cultural institution on planet Earth that wouldn't want to have the substance and reach and effect that TED has. 1 billion video views. I often get asked, oh, that's great, that's cool, but we're about the object. We're about the thing, we're about the library visitor, we're about the museum visitor, and that's great too. Is a TED Talk as good as a visit to a museum? Well, it depends. But try this experiment. Try Googling TED Talk made me cry. And then go look at this one. This is my favorite, A Story About Knots and Surgeons by Ed Cavigan. Another great one is by, whoops, Big Red Blob, sorry about that, is by a mute quadriplegic who uses web-driven robotics and now remote-controlled quadcopters, drones, to navigate the world. It's one of the most hopeful and uplifting 10 minutes I can think of having. And then think about how we think about our museum audiences. This is the scrum in front of the Mona Lisa on any given day of the year. Art historian and the co-dean of art and history at the Kahn Academy, Beth Harris, who also used to be the director of digital learning at the Museum of Modern Art, writes about museum experiences. She says, it isn't this amazing contemplative, aesthetic, transcendent experience. It's jostling crowds. It's being annoyed by the people you're with sometimes. It's feeling disappointed that you can't have the reaction that the museum wants you to have, that you don't have the knowledge and the background to get there. I mean, it's a whole range of complicated things. And I often see that when we debate how to prioritize digital with bricks and mortar in our institutions, we often make the mistake of comparing the worst of digital with the absolute ideal best of what happens in our museums. Our best audiences, our best customers, on their best day, on our best day, in our best projects. And that doesn't happen all that often. A Smithsonian Institution analysis of the learning goals of art museum exhibitions over 10 or 15 years says that most of the goals of exhibit designers are met in only a very small percentage of visits. And even those don't take into account the visitors that already arrive knowing the things we want them to learn. So much of what you see happening to bridge the gap between what our institutions are capable of, between that global appetite, that human appetite for learning, engagement, authenticity, creativity, how people are bridging that gap between what we could do and what we should do is being taken up by something called permissionless innovation. Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of the website Reddit I talked about, wrote this book called Without Their Permission. During the Industrial Revolution, he said, you had to open a factory to get cool stuff done. With the internet revolution, you only need to open a laptop. Again, a few years ago, I thought that was hyperbole. Now it is demonstrably true. Great case study, great example. The US Supreme Court was noted for having a terrible website a few years ago. The startup kind of renegade troublemaker Sunlight Foundation in Washington, D.C. took it upon themselves to redesign our Supreme Court's website. What do you do if you're stuck these days? Do you ask permission to do something like that? No, you just do it. And they made quite a scathing critique. of the Supreme Court's failures in user experience, their appreciation of audiences. You couldn't find court cases on the Supreme Court's website, so they fixed it. And they gave the code back to the Supreme Court of the United States, who, to their credit, adopted most of it. These young people, Italian museum enthusiasts, were frustrated by Italy's lack of participation, the Italian cultural institutions' lack of engagement online. Most Italian institutions are barely online. Most don't have their collections online. They're not on Facebook. They're not on Twitter. Somebody took me aside and said, most of you aren't really online on social media yet. So what do you do if you're 22, 23 years old and you're sort of pissed at the underperformance of your hollowed institutions? You start a blog. You create a brand, Sveglia Museo, which means literally wake up museums. You set up a Twitter account. You can do this in like an hour. You start a Facebook group. Now it's over 2,000 members. You start connecting practitioners from institutions that are pretty good on social media with their counterparts at Italian institutions that are struggling. You let them do the work, like a sister city program. Maybe you even create an ebook, which they did. By the time I learned that they were doing, in the time it took the news to get to me that they were writing an ebook, they had already finished and put it online. Pretty impressive. Our ebook addresses museum professionals approaching social networks, or the web in general, for the very first time, as well as those more experienced but eager to know more. It's in Italian only now. Google Translate does a pretty good job of bringing it to English, and I'm encouraging the Sveglia Museo team to crowdsource the translation of it, because I think we all need this book. The Uffizi Gallery, one of the most renowned collections in the Western world. Art historian Alexandra Corey wrote, if there is one museum in the world that is worth spending a lot of time in, it's the Uffizi. Unfortunately, it's not a museum that loves visitors or that visitors love. It's a museum that desperately needed a guide. So I took it upon myself to write that guide. Alexandra Corey and her husband wrote an app for the Uffizi because the Uffizi didn't have one. How did they do this? Were they programmers? Were they geeks? No. Alexandra Corey's an art historian, and her husband, I don't know what her husband did, but instead of going to the beach last August, they watched YouTube videos on how to make iPhone apps and Android apps, and they did it. Okay, so game over. There's no excuse for any of you with a building and a payroll and some reputation and trust in society. There's no excuse anymore. Get out there and begin. There are a few projects. Digital Invasion is a group of outsiders who show up with the museum's fans. They show up on site, they take pictures, they do YouTube videos, they just do stuff because people love these institutions, even if they sometimes are a little unresponsive and kooky. How to organize an invasion. Another thing you'll see happening is organizers, conveners, are giving away the authority, the responsibility, the playbook for how to begin doing these things in an open, social, globally scalable way. Their YouTube page is pretty fantastic. Another great one is Museo Mix, which has a manifesto that's about, as the founder says, it says, we go into museums, we take pictures and liberate them to the web. It's very simple. They often will show up with kind of sometimes very late permission from an institution. Now increasingly institutions are inviting them in to invade their museums. And they do a kind of a hackathon, they explore ideas, they create fast exhibits, they put things online, and then they have a big celebration in the evening in the galleries to share what they've done. They're wonderful social events. Back in the early days of podcasting, the fans and detractors of the Metropolitan, the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art in New York City, made their own iPod tours of MoMA. They just did it. They didn't ask permission, they just did it, and they're fascinating, wonderful. A new manifestation of that is the project Museum Hack. Museum Hack is a young, I think self-described millennial who was kind of went to an art museum visit for the first time with a girlfriend, thought it was really cool, and decided he wanted to share that experience with more of his friends. So he kind of does an untour in New York City. He found out that the Metropolitan Museum of Art only allows, if you have more than 9 people in your group, you need to register as a tour guide and go through some paperwork. So he only brings groups of 9 in, and he just does it. He wrote, Nick Gray, the founder, wrote, the Met sprawls 2.3 million square feet and 13 acres of Central Park, filled with some of the world's greatest masterpieces. The Met is hard to navigate, even for a New York City resident, ... So we hacked it without their permission. And looping back to the beginning, this little video, Mick Jones is one of the leading members of The Clash, a very angry bunch of young men who really were a milestone in the punk rock movement worldwide. Mick's an old, genteel, middle-aged guy now. And he was asked to perform at the opening of the Rock and Roll Public Library in London a couple years ago. A young woman, Isabella Cordaro, visiting London from Brazil, found out about it. She was a big Clash fan, and she talked her way into the event even though she didn't have a ticket. She told the guard, "I've come all the way from Brazil." And she brought her smartphone with her. And what do you do when you're seeing something cool and you've got a smartphone in your pocket? You open it up and you take a video of your hero. It's a very quirky video. It's shaky. It wanders down into the head of the guy in front of her for long periods of time. But it's so pure and reverent. And it captures such a beautiful moment that the library itself never thought to capture. Never thought it was significant. Never occurred to them, I think. I haven't talked to the staff, so I'm speculating here. Just never, wasn't part of their program to pull out one of their own smartphones and film the thing. This video now has 261,000 views. That makes people happy all over the world. The Rock and Roll Public Library. There's no reason these things can't happen in your galleries too. Only with the internet, this is Ai Weiwei, Chinese artist, only with the internet can a peasant I have never met hear my voice and I can learn what's on his mind. A fairy tale has come true. The open, social, collaborative platforms of the read-write web make projects like Svelja Museo and Alexander Corey's Uffizi app inevitable. And even the largest, most brilliant institutions cannot match the wit and energy of their followers, particularly when those followers, those fans, those audiences are part of a network that connects more than 1/3 of humanity. We should expect to see countless thousands of projects like these as the internet continues to grow, which it will. Platforms become more powerful and easier to use, which they will. And citizens become more confident in their abilities to challenge, help, and even surpass the accomplishments of our sacrosanct institutions. And our choice, your choice, will be whether to ignore these people, discourage them, compete with them, or dedicate ourselves to ensuring their and our lifelong success. So until recently, we thought we had a pretty good idea of what museums were made of. We thought that museums, libraries, archives, cultural institutions of all kinds were made of buildings, collections, staff, visitors, things we could see, touch, hear, smell, or directly measure by counting tickets sold, people through the doors. But we were wrong. Not just a little wrong. We were wrong at a stupendous scale. Like the universe before Vera Rubin discovered dark matter, we were seeing only a very small percentage of the cultural activity that we expected to see, where we expected to see it, and when we expected to see it. But we know more now. There is more now. And it's tremendously exciting to think about what we can accomplish if we begin to work with true conviction in the areas of the internet that are less familiar to us, maybe, but more familiar to our visitors. Museums, libraries, archives can play a huge role in the story of how Earth's 7 billion citizens will lead their lives, make and participate in their culture, learn, share, invent, create, cry, laugh, and do in the future. It's often forgotten that Tim Berners-Lee designed the World Wide Web from the ground up to have a remarkable central characteristic. Everyone who joined would automatically be granted the right to both consume and produce, to read and write on equal footing with everyone else. Vera Rubin wrote late in her career, "In a very real sense, astronomy begins anew. The joy and fun of understanding the universe we bequeath to our grandchildren and to their grandchildren. With over 90% of the matter in the universe still to play with, even the sky will not be the limit." Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. I ran really long. Do we have time for questions? I'm here till 4:30. It's up to you. Your conference.
We actually don't.
All right. Well, I'm here, but thank you for sharing your space with me. You're very welcome.
We have sessions that start pretty much right now, and so we will proceed on with our meeting, but I want to thank Michael for his remarks. It was wonderful.